pleasant good day once again, and welcome to the Watchman radio program, recorded live from the studio of Revival Time Radio. Today is the 5th of May, the year 2017. And today I want to have a quick word with you about the attacks of the enemy, his subtleness, and one of these ways that he is very subtle with, and a way that a lot of us as Christians, we are ignorant to it. Some of us, we ignore it. And what I'm talking about here, this particular attack that I want to focus on today, is the attack on the family through the work of God. That's correct. He is using the work of God to attack families, to attack our family. And this is a fact. This is something that is very, very true and very, very real, and is causing a lot of havoc in the church concerning families, because the enemy knows that if he can get to families, if he can destroy families, if he can cause families to have trouble, then the knockoff effect will be on the church itself. In other words, if he can attack their individual, and that individual cause problems in his own family, then the church will eventually be in very big trouble. So this is a word, a message to all ministers alike. Whatever your ministry is, whether it be preaching, whether it be singing, whatever your ministry is, you are a church leader, you are called to a specific ministry. This word is for you, and the Lord wants you to really get this. The Lord wants you to understand that your first ministry is your home. I'll repeat that. The Lord wants you to understand today and forevermore that your first ministry, your first priority is your home, where you live, your family, your wife, your husband, your children. They are your first ministry. You are to make sure that you take care of that. Take care of them first and foremost. So many of us have neglected our families, have neglected our children. And this is what is causing so much divorce within the church circle. One statistic reads some time ago that the divorce rate in church is even higher than that of the world. And this is one of the ways that the enemy is accomplishing this task of his, by attacking the family through our work for the Lord. He has made us to believe that our work is so important, even more important than our families, our wife, our children. Now, do not get me wrong. I'm not saying that our work for the Lord is not important. It is absolutely important. But our families, looking after our families, giving them the attention that they need and require, is more important. It is considered to be one of the things that are more weightier in God's eyes, that are more important for us to deal with. So get this word today. Your first ministry is your home. The Bible tells us about this. Even Paul warns us about this, about preaching others into heaven, neglecting ourselves and our families. This is something that Jesus rebuked the Pharisees for in the book of Matthew chapter 23. They were doing things that were not wrong. They were offering up their offerings and spices and whatever those are something that were not wrong to do. But Jesus rebuked them sternly because they neglected what he called the weightier things of the law, which is kindness, which is justice, and stuff like that. We cannot afford to be so overly religious that we neglect the matters of the heart, the things that are done from within. In that book, Jesus told them that they should make sure to do the things that are more important to God without neglecting what they were already doing. And this just goes to confirm what I just said, that although what you may be doing is not wrong, but it can be a snare to you should you fail to do what is more important first, should you fail to neglect those things that are done from within. Fairness, justice, peace, mercy, kindness, those attributes of God, the fruit of the Spirit, exercising the fruit of the Spirit in its entirety. We can do the work, yes, but if we are doing the work without doing those things that are more important, the things that matters to the heart, the things that are controlled by the heart's condition, we will be in trouble with God. Now, the first book of Timothy, chapter 5, or chapter 3, verse 5. It says something very important here. And it asks a question that I want to ask you as well. It says, if anyone does not know how to manage his own family, how can he take care of God's church? A very serious question here. If you cannot take care of your own household, if you cannot manage your wife and your husband, your children, if you cannot manage your own household, the Lord is asking you this very simple question: how can you manage the church of God? How can you manage His church? And so this verse is telling us quite clearly that we have to make sure that we can handle things at home, that we are doing the things that we need to do at home and be successful in it before coming to do His own work, before He can trust you with His work. Because the Lord wants to make sure that as we learn, because our home is our training ground, it is our university, it is our school, our college, we have to get it right there first. The Lord wants to use these avenues to train us, to build us up, so that when we come into His house to do His work, that we will be fully trained, we will have all the wisdom, the knowledge and understanding that we need, that we have gained from the experience of dealing with our house, our household. Use it to manage the church. So many of our children, many of them that, they grow up being unruly and wayward. And this is due to the lack of teaching, the lack, of attention that they need from us as parents. Your child grows up, he goes out and do all kind of nonsense, and you curse him, you blame him for what he's doing. But if you were to really take note of what the Bible is saying here, what the Lord is saying here, you will recognize that you yourself are to be blamed. That all that is happening to your son, your daughter, what they have chosen to do, is because you have neglected to teach them what they should have done instead. You have neglected to show them the word of God. You have neglected to spend that quality time with them, training them up in the ways of God. And so as they grow up, they learn other things from television, from their friends, from other people. The things that God did not intend for them to learn. But they did not have any other option, because you did not do what you were supposed to do. And so they grow up being rude. They grow up being disrespectful. They grow up being thieves, being murderers, being child abusers. They grow up without training. And so, who is to be blamed? You cannot blame them. You have to blame yourself. You have to blame yourself, because the Bible tells you, if you were to do what you were supposed to do as instructed, that as they grow up, they will not depart from what they would have learnt. This is very clear from the Word of God. And this is what it says in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 to 9, which I'll read. It says, "These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts." This is God talking to the Israelites there back then, but it is applicable for now and forevermore. It goes on to say, "Impress them on your children." The laws, the ways of God, the difference between right and wrong, the knowledge of good and evil. Impress them on your children. Teach them, talk to them. It goes on to say, talk about them when you sit at home. That's where you start. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road. When you lie down and when you get up. This just tells you you are to always minister to your children, minister to your family, minister to your wife, minister. This is a continuous thing, not something you do once a week. It's something that you should be doing every day, at all times. The verse goes on to say, tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. It gives you the picture that it should always be in your foresight to do. First priority. Verse 9 says, write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. They should be all around you. The word of God should be flying all around your house. Flying all around, even outside of your house. That everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, everywhere you go, that you will meet it, you will be seeing it. You'll be able to think about it, to meditate upon it, to remember it. And that's the whole idea. You have to drill it in. When we are born as children, newborn babes, we are born in sin. We are born to do what is wrong. If we grow up without being taught what is good, what is right, we will automatically do all that is wrong. That is the way it is. Simple and clear. As innocent as a baby may look, he only knows how to do evil. And so we all have to be trained in the ways of God to know good, to do good, and to practice what is right. This is very important for us. And so the Lord wants us to, again, remember that our first ministry is our homes. We are never to neglect our family, our children. Don't cause the enemy, or don't give him any loopholes. Don't open any doors for him to destroy the church of God. He will do that through you. Although you have your work to do, although you have your ministry work to do, make sure that you handle your household first and foremost. Make sure that things are right there. Give your time to your children. Spend the time with them. Tell them about God. Teach them about the commandments of God. Teach them about the ways, the character of God. Teach them, not only your children, but your wife as well, your husband, whatever the case may be. Teach them. Handle your things at home first. And then the Lord would, of course, expect you to come into his house and handle things there as well. So be wise. Be careful not to put your preaching, your whatever ministry that you're called to do, don't put it above your family. The work you have to do for the Lord, it is very important, but it is more important to make sure that you take care of your spiritual responsibilities to your household, to your wife, to your husbands, to your children. Minister to them. The church will be strong once the family is strong. Once the family is walking in the ways of God and firm, rooted and grounded in him, the church will be a strong church. And once the church is a strong church, the community will eventually fall in line. Your whole country eventually will fall in line once the church is where it should be. And it starts with you as an individual, followed by your family. So take this word very seriously today. This is a word from the Lord. And again, I just want to thank you for joining me for this another edition of the Watchman radio program, broadcasting live from London, England. And should you want to contact me for any reason, you can find me on Facebook and search for my profile there, Curtis Minister Roach or Minister Curtis Roach, either two of the profile. You can also find me via the page, the Watchman radio program Facebook page. You can leave me a message and I'll respond to you at my earliest convenience. Would invite you to also subscribe to my YouTube channel to receive updates of all my uploads, and you'll have access to hundreds of other videos that are there to instruct you, to help you along the way. You can also follow me on Twitter at Roach_Curtis. I would like you to share these programs. As we are living in the last days, the enemy is on the attack, and he's doing all that he can to to get as many of us, as many of you into hell with him, should he succeed with what he's doing. He knows he has a short time, and we should not be ignorant of that fact either. His time is short. The rapture of the bride of Christ is very, very near. It can happen at any time. And so, share the word of God. Share these videos among your friends, among your families, on your social medias, and let the word go viral. So again, thank you, and God richly bless you. Goodbye.